the row, have you? Is that the case?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, let me tell you a bit about what this row is about and what life and what they might be seeing out there on the open ocean. Is that all right? Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. So this is a picture of the high-tech rowboat, I think, that you have in front of you that these guys are rowing. There's only two fellas on the boat there. That looks like Adam and Marcus, perhaps, but there's actually four of them on the boat right now rowing across the ocean. I'm sure you've been keeping up with them. And so I just want to take a few minutes to talk about what they might be seeing out there and what they might be experiencing out in the middle of the ocean. So I'm going to run through that real quick right here. Oh yeah, quick introduction. So my name's Sean Brilliant. I work for the Canadian Wildlife Federation, which is one of the sponsors of this row. I manage the marine program and spend a lot of time out hunting for animals, consider myself a naturalist as well. My background is marine biology, and I've spent 20-some years studying the ocean, everything from whales and turtles to snails and seaweed, basically. So it's a very exciting thing for me to see this row taking place, and even more exciting for a chance to come and talk to you guys about what they're seeing and what it's like out there in the middle of the ocean. Just curious, how many people in the class right now?
22.
22. And if someone can count, how many of you have been to the ocean?
About 15.
Oh, very good, very good. How many of you have been on the ocean, in a boat, fishing or sailing or whale watching? 5, yeah. So the rest of you have been to the ocean, put your toes in it, and had a chance to taste it, I assume. So that's really good. That's really impressive. That's really great to know. Okay, well, let's talk a bit about this row. What's this row all about, right? So you guys have been paying attention to this. So they've started in Senegal in Africa, and they're rowing over to Florida in the USA. And the distance that they're going is roughly about almost 6,500 kilometers across the open ocean. The Atlantic Ocean is where they're rowing and what they're dealing with right now. So to put that into perspective, here's our country, Canada. Here's our continent, and you can see Canada at the top. And the distance from Canada, from Newfoundland straight over to Vancouver, is about 5,000 kilometers. So they're rowing a distance, the width of the ocean, even greater than the width of our country. And we're the second largest country in the world, a very long country, and they're going even a greater distance. So why are we sponsoring this? Why are we interested in this, these four crazy guys rowing across the ocean, and what's this all about? Well, let's talk a bit about what our country is, first of all. So here we are in our country. Our country is made up of about 9 million square kilometers of land, second biggest country in the world, of course. Definitely a lot of land, a lot of Arctic landscapes as well, but a big country. What we tend to forget a lot of the time is that Canada also consists of ocean. There's about 6 million square kilometers of ocean that Canada is responsible for. We look after, and we have the advantage to take advantage of those resources, the privilege to take advantage of the resources in those oceans, and we're responsible for looking after this. So there is almost as much ocean we're responsible for as there is land, and we need to keep this in mind. Now, we also have a very large coastline, so much of our country touches the ocean too. We have over 240,000 square kilometers of coastline. This is the largest in the world. Nobody has more, and a lot of it is up in the north, of course, but we do have a lot of coastline. So there is a lot of contact with our country with the ocean. It is clear that we have a strong connection to the ocean, and from where I am, we have a strong connection as well. Pardon me, I just realized I didn't introduce where I am. I told you I work for the Canadian Wildlife Federation running the Marine Conservation Program. I'm based in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I'm here on the campus of Dalhousie University, which is where we house the program. And I just happened to squirrel away into this classroom to talk to you guys. So I'm based way out on the East Coast, right on the ocean, and it's a going concern for us out here. We spend a lot more time having to deal with its effect on weather and everything else. So, who owns the ocean is what I wanted to talk to you quickly about. Here's a map of the world. All the land is shown in green. And around all of the land, you'll notice there's a small outline, a little area in blue. These are all the areas of the ocean that are owned or controlled or managed by different countries of the world. And one of the things I want you to notice is that most of the ocean is white. That means there is no country looking after that part. This is what's referred to as the high seas. In fact, over 60% of the ocean is not managed by any one country. There are lots of international agreements and cooperation to control these things, but the point is most of the ocean is not owned and looked after by any one country. And this is important from the perspective of the Canadian Wildlife Federation because a lot of the animals, a lot of our marine wildlife that live in our oceans around Canada don't always stay in Canadian waters. They actually swim out, they migrate out into the open ocean or even into other countries, and then they're affected by other countries as well as the open sea and so on. So we really want to take a chance to sort of promote and get thinking that a lot of our marine wildlife is actually shared with other parts of the world, and while they are in Canadian waters, we have a responsibility to look after them, but they are not always in Canadian waters. So related to this, we have another project on the go called the Great Canadian Turtle Race. I just wanted to mention this quickly. This is a leatherback turtle swimming off the coast of Atlantic Canada. These giant turtles, they weigh like half a ton each. They swim up to Canadian waters every year, and they eat jellyfish, these giant jellyfish that grow in our waters, and they get fat on these, and then they travel south to warmer waters, and that's where they crawl up on beaches and lay their eggs and so on. They never come up on shore in Canada. So we tagged a bunch of these last year with the Canadian Sea Turtle Network, who's our partner, and then we put satellite tags on these things, and we've been watching them swim down. We've sort of been racing them down to see which one gets to the beaches first. This is a map of the race as it is right now. All of these squiggly colored lines show the tracks of different turtles, and I've tried to mark the location of the 10 turtles that we've tagged with little gold stars. And you can see they've sort of started up north here in Atlantic Canada, which is where they were feeding and where we tagged them, and then they've all swum out into the ocean, and several of them have come in to Dominican Republic and Colombia and near South America, where we think they're going to nest soon. And we've been tracking these guys to check them out, to see what they're going to do and where they're going to end up. Here is the path that the fellas on the rowboat have taken. They're right about this location now, sort of just past the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. What's interesting was that we asked a bunch of groups to sponsor these different turtles, and the turtle, we asked these guys on the rowboat to sponsor one of these turtles, and they sponsored this one here, and they called it Trekker. And interestingly enough, they passed within 500 or 600 kilometers of Trekker as they were coming across the ocean, so that was a happy coincidence there. Anyway, I won't talk about this much more, but if you want to check it out, the website is simply turtlerace.ca, and you can learn much more information about this, these turtles and leatherback turtles. But the point here is that this is another example of the fact that we have Canadian wildlife that we consider Canadian, marine wildlife in this case, that actually swim out into the open ocean and go through many other countries, and many other countries will consider them their wildlife as well. So we need to think on a big scale to be able to look after these things. Okay, so what are the rowers seeing out there? This is a grab from their Facebook site, and I like this because the quote here, whichever of them had written this, I liked it. It says, "Horizon to horizon, everywhere you look, it feels like you're in the center of your own universe, so strange." And that's exactly the case. That's one of the first things that they're going to perceive, one of the first things they're going to see when they're out there. How far can they see? When you're sitting on a little marble, which the Earth is just a round surface, when you're sitting on a flat, smooth surface on this round marble, how far can you see? Well, if we take into account that here they are on the edge of the globe, on the edge of the ocean as they're rowing across it, here's Jordan as he's sitting there on the rowboat, when they look straight out to the horizon, how far can they see? They can only see about 5 kilometers. About 5 kilometers in any direction, because after that the Earth curves away from them and they can't actually see anything beyond that. So their whole world consists of about 5 kilometers in every direction, and that's it. And they're moving at about 5 kilometers an hour, so they're getting to a new part of the world about every hour and seeing a new part of it, and yet it's just all ocean that they're seeing. Here's one of my favorite cartoons. I don't know if you guys can see this. Here's a little dude sitting on a desert island with a palm tree on it, and he's surrounded by ocean, and the little caption there says, "Day 44, still stranded with nothing but flat, empty water as far as the eye can see." Right? The old Robinson Crusoe story, someone stranded on a desert island, and this is what they see, nothing at all, right? But here's the rest of the cartoon, as you can imagine. It looks like flat, empty water as far as the eye can see, but that's because most of what's there is going on in the water. It's taking place in a world that's almost beyond our understanding and almost beyond our ability to experience it. There is all kinds of stuff that's going on. It's just that we as humans can't see it as easily as others, but it's where a lot of the life on this planet takes place. I love this cartoon. It's one of my favorites. So here's our world spinning around, I hope, for you. And one of the things you'll see, of course, is that it's mostly ocean. And these guys who are rowing across the Atlantic Ocean are currently on one of the largest habitats on the planet, which is the open ocean. It's also known as the pelagic system. And this habitat actually covers a large proportion of the area on our planet. And they're getting to experience it, and it's something that most of us, people, humans, can't experience because it's very alien to us and it's hard to live in and it's hard to access. But all of the ocean is not the same. Even though it looks like flat, smooth surface, which is what these guys are seeing, it's not the same. The ocean changes in many different ways. One of the ways it changes is depth. This is a picture of the Atlantic Ocean with no water in it. Africa is on the right in green, South America is in the lower left-hand corner, and North America in the top left-hand corner. And you'll see that this is how deep the ocean looks. And the ocean is relatively shallow on the edges where it's close to land, and it gets deeper as you move out into the ocean. And then when you get to the middle of the ocean, you hit this mountain range, and it gets a little bit shallower, called the mid-oceanic ridge. It's a little bit shallower, but that mountain range is still 2 or 3 kilometers underwater. But the deeper parts of the ocean occur on either side of it. So depth is one thing that changes in the ocean. It's not all the same because some parts are deeper than others. Another thing that changes is that the ocean moves. It's not just staying in one position. It flows and moves around. And this moves food, and it moves temperature, and it moves all kinds of things. In some ways, it's predictable. This is a picture of the Gulf Stream moving up the east coast of North America as it moves water around the Atlantic. And this is a picture of some of the equatorial currents running into South America and flowing north and eventually becoming the Gulf Stream. But you can see that there's lots of mixing and moving going on. These are like rivers in the ocean that move water and animals and food around, and they're very important. So currents are an important part that chop up the ocean into different habitats. The other one is temperature. You know, if you've been to warm beaches near the equator or in the south, even if you're not near the equator, the water is much warmer and more beautiful. The water where I live here on the east coast of Canada occasionally gets tolerable to get in the summer. Right now, very cold. You don't go in without a wetsuit or even a dry suit. But at the poles, both in the North Pole and near the South Pole, it gets so cold that the ocean actually freezes. Part of it freezes anyway. And so temperature is an important thing. These variations occur throughout the ocean, and it makes a big difference on what different types of habitats there are. Finally, one of the more important things is light. Light is important because it is what lets plants grow. Plants require it to grow, and plants are one of the most important things for creating energy in our world. But water absorbs light. Light can't go very deep into the water before it disappears. This is a slice through the ocean that you're seeing here with different names for the different layers that we give parts of the ocean. And the top layer, if you can't see it, is called epipelagic, and then mesopelagic and bathypelagic, abyssopelagic and hadopelagic, all the way down to 6 kilometers or even 12 kilometers deep in the ocean is how deep it goes. But light disappears after about 200 meters. Light only penetrates to the top 200 meters of the ocean that you can see there. That thin layer at the top there is as far as light goes. Everything below that is too dark for plants to grow. So where there is light, there is plants, food to eat. Where there is no light, there is less. Now, there are other parts of the world, even in the deep ocean, that produce life without light. Those are very special places, but most of the life in the world is based on light. We can talk about that now. So, this is what you see with the ocean, but in reality, there is all kinds of different pieces to the ocean that create different habitats, just like on land. Habitat is easy to see the differences on land. In the ocean, it's not as easy to see, but the differences are actually there. So, what are the rowers seeing out there? Well, they've seen leatherback turtles. This is a grab from one of the videos that they made of this 600 kilogram turtle swimming around their boat before it swam away. So we know they've done that. They've scraped barnacles off of their boat. So there's barnacles living out there that are attaching to their growing off of it. They have seen flying fish leaping out of the water, gliding for several hundred meters before going back into the water, an adaptation for fish in this in this pelagic system to be able to move very quickly. And they've also seen seabirds and dolphins, they mention, which are common as well. Jellyfish are another one. This is a Portuguese man-of-war. It's also called a blue bottle or a Physalia, a little invertebrate that catches small food and fish and eats it out in the ocean, also very common. They mentioned seeing a sailfish, very large, fast-swimming predatory fish in the open ocean. And they mentioned seeing pilot whales as well at one point, just off the distance from the boat as well. And they got a little bit of video from them. They're hard to see. And these are all organisms that live in this pelagic system. They've also seen some stuff that I don't know what it is. This is an organism, I think you might have seen this, that they pulled up from the rope when they did some of their water sampling. The photo is a bit unclear, so it's difficult for me to figure out what it is, and I really don't know what it is just yet. It looks like a pelagic tunicate of some sort, but I'm not sure. So there's lots of stuff that they're seeing that we don't even know. Oh, and this is a picture of a dolphin fish that kind of looks like this. A clip from a video. They have a video in this of these dolphin fish swimming around their boat. Also very fast swimming predatory fish in the open ocean. So that's very fascinating. What else might they see out there? One of the things that they might see, I'm surprised that they haven't mentioned seeing yet, are sharks. Sharks are very common out there. Nothing for them to be concerned about. It's just another large, fast swimming predatory fish that's very common in the open ocean. Whales is another one. I just noticed recently on their blogs, if you've been looking at them, that they've been saying that they've seen some whales off in the distance but haven't gotten any pictures. That's very exciting. Not surprising at all. There are several very large ocean-going whales that they are very likely to see, including the blue whale, which is what the photo of, near shore though, and largest animal to live on Earth, and a very exciting thing. And I hope that the way they describe it, it's quite an experience when they hear these whales, and I hope they get a good picture of it to show us now. They may also see some strange organisms like this. This is an ocean sunfish, a very large, odd fish that is common in the open ocean and often comes to the surface to feed on plants and so on, growing in the water. And if they pay close attention, and they're pretty good at it, they may even see some of these very small, fascinating organisms that live just on the surface layer of them. This is a sea slug that lives upside down in the ocean, and this is a snail that lives upside down in the ocean by blowing bubbles and floating off of its bubbles. And these things float around for jellyfish to eat. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have a chance to notice these, although they are moving fairly quickly in the water and working very hard. So they may not have the luck looking around for these little things, but there's lots of other small wildlife out there that's easily overlooked, and they're having a hard time getting pictures of the big, amazing looking animals as well. So let's just sum up. What are the rowers seeing out there? Well, the ocean looks flat to them. That's what they're seeing, but it's not flat. It's curved, and we know that. They are seeing one habitat, the surface of the ocean, so it looks like it's all one habitat. That is also the case. There are many parts to the ocean, and they've already rowed through many different types of habitats, and they're going to row through many more. It may seem lifeless. Now, this is a bit unfair because I know they are seeing lots of animals there, but when you're looking at a flat, empty ocean like my little cartoon I showed you, it looks almost like, but it's not. There is, and even the organisms and the wildlife that they are seeing, there is probably much more that they're not seeing, just because of the way that we're built. We just can't experience them so easy. So it's amazing. And one of the other things that they sort of speculate on once in a while, and they sometimes mention, is it just seems so huge and so enormous. It seems like it's nothing we could ever affect, and we know that's wrong too. We know we can affect the ocean quite a bit with how we live our life, and how the world and how humans develop and use resources in this world. We can have a large effect on the oceans, and we need to keep that in mind. So that's about all I wanted to talk to you about, but the last thing I'll leave you with is this is really what I want you to do, and you guys are already on the track for doing this. Educate, inform, and influence, right? Educate yourselves about the ocean. Learn about the ocean. You are clearly doing this, and I'm thrilled to be a part and to get a chance to talk to you guys about it. Learn how the ocean works, which is very different from how our world works on land. Learn how we affect the ocean. Then make sure you inform people. Tell them let them know how the ocean works. Let them know how we affect the ocean, and then influence them so that we can find ways to stop damaging the ocean as we live our life. because it's very important to make sure that we conserve these things for future generations as well. And you guys are the ones who are going to have to deal with some of these issues. So you want to make sure people understand that you are well educated about what the ocean is and how humans affect it and how we should be affecting it as well. The last thought I'm just going to leave you with, just because it's a bit of a quote from an author from a book that I liked, is they described the ocean as a place where extreme is normal and rare is common. And I really like this because it sort of shows just how alien the ocean is compared to what we think of in the world and what we experience. And this is a very good description because the ocean is very different. It acts very differently from what we normally experience, and we need to keep that in mind. So that's all I'm going to talk about today. My email address is there. Sean Brilliant is my name, and if anybody has any questions, you can email me. And if we have any questions now, we can try and you can try and ask them right now, and we'll see if we can answer them. Otherwise, I really appreciate you inviting me into your classroom to talk to you about this. So thanks very much.
We do have some questions. Okay.
Sure.
Why did they choose oars and not? What is anything to do with you?
So I'm sorry, I only heard part of the question. I heard you say, why did they choose oars and not something else? I assume you're wondering why they're not using a motor, perhaps?
Yeah, they were wondering with the carbon footprint.
Oh. Well, it certainly is, of course. I mean, I don't know why they chose it. The organization that we're partnered with, OAR, is actually about adventure rowing. So it is rowing in particular that they try to do. But you're exactly right. I mean, by rowing across the ocean, they are certainly reducing the amount of non-renewable resources they would be using had they been using a gas-powered motor or something else. Although a sail might have been a bit less strenuous for them, but that's what adventure rowing is all about. So I think part of this project that they're doing is about the adventure itself and seeing if they can row across the ocean. And part of this project is about educating and sharing their experience with all of us who are stuck on land and who have the luxury of being able to experiencing the ocean without all the hard work. So I think that's why they're doing it.
One of the rowers gets hurt or sick.
One of the rowers gets hurt or sick? Yeah, well then they're going to have a difficult time. So they row two at a time, usually, unless someone is making dinner or something, and the other two are normally resting. They brought 6 oars with them, and I don't know if you saw this or read this, but they broke 2 of the oars. They're pulling on the water so hard, and the water is pushing against them so hard, especially when it gets rough. They broke 2 of them, so now they only have 4 oars left. If they break 1 more oar, I'm not sure what their backup plan is, but it's difficult to row with only 3 oars. And the same is true of the rowers. You're exactly right. I don't know what their option would be. I suppose that they will have to try and row on double shifts or try and get more rest. But it's part of the adventure, I think, is to see if everybody can stay fit and healthy and contribute to the effort needed to get that boat across the ocean. It's pretty exciting.
Have they seen any signs of pollution in the ocean?
Yeah, wow, what a great question. They just posted this the other day on their blog. They said that, I don't know if what they've seen for pollution. They may have seen some in Africa as they were leaving the coast, but just the other day on the blog, they're out in the middle of the Atlantic, and they said they saw 2 plastic bottles float by. How is that? That is just so shocking and embarrassing, isn't it? So yes, they have seen pollution, and it's such a telling thing. Plastics and the ocean are a big issue and a big problem, and they've certainly seen firsthand of that already.
When do the rowers meet each other and decide to go on this quest or journey?
Sorry, I missed part of that question.
Rowers meet each other and decide this quest or journey.
Are you asking if they knew each other before the journey?
When did they meet?
When did they leave?
Did they know each other? Did they know each other?
Pardon, yeah, sorry. They did know each other beforehand. So one of them is not a rower, but I think the other three were all rowers. Adam Creek was on the Olympic rowing team, and at least one or two of the other members are adventure rowers as well. So I'm not sure if they were all friends beforehand. Several of them certainly knew each other, and it is without doubt they will likely be friends at the end of this row as well. So I'm not totally sure about that.
How long did they train before the journey?
Oh, how long did they train? I'm not sure how long. I think it has taken more than a year of preparation for them to get ready for this. And we did a test event last year where they rowed around Vancouver Island in this boat just to make sure they could do it and to test out the equipment and to test out their bodies. And then they've had to continually train their bodies so that they could handle all of this rowing and effort. And then they had to plan their food, and they had to plan for emergencies. So they've been training for quite a while in preparation for this race, at least a year.
Who came up with the idea to row across the Atlantic Ocean?
Well, it's been done before, and this organization or this outdoor adventure rowing organization sort of promotes it, and one of these rowers has done this type of adventure rowing before. So in some ways it has been done before, but it is not a common thing to do. It's a bit of a challenge. I guess it's the marine equivalent of climbing a giant mountain. You know, some people like to climb giant mountains to see if they can get to the very top, and on the ocean you want to see if you can row across the ocean on your own power to make it across as well, and to experience a part of the world that so few other people get to experience, and to be able to share it. So I guess that's why they're doing it. I like to think that's why they're doing it.
What is the whole purpose of this trip?
Well, there's two purposes, I guess. One is the adventure. They want to see if they can do it, if they can make the challenge and actually accomplish this row across the ocean on their own power. The other purpose is to let people see what the open ocean is like, and to remind people that we are connected to the open ocean, even if you're away from it, as you guys are, and that we are responsible for looking after the wildlife and the health of that ocean. You know, those 2 plastic bottles that they saw float by them, we don't know where they came from or who they came from, but anybody who uses plastic bottles may be responsible for it. And that's a good message to remind people that we need to be careful about how we act in this world. So I think that's one of the purposes of this adventure, and to give people a chance to sort of see this part of the world that's usually so hidden.
We're still answering, but we're still asking. Don't go away.
Okay.
What are they doing for fresh water?
What are they doing for, pardon me? Fresh water. Oh, okay. They have a machine that is designed to take salt out of water, and so they can take salt water from the ocean. They run it through a machine that has a membrane and essentially removes the salt from the water, and then they can drink the water that's left over. It's called a desalinization unit, and it's a very important piece of equipment for them, because where they are, there is very, very little fresh water except for what falls from the sky, so they have to be able to make it themselves.
During my break, one of our classmates heard that there were a large number of sharks migrating along the coast of South Carolina. Have the rowers seen any migrating?
I'm sorry, you were asking about, I missed the part when you started asking about the rowers. How are the rowers?
Have the rowers seen any large number of sharks migrating yet?
Yeah, they haven't mentioned it in their blogs at all, and I'm a bit surprised, because there are a lot of sharks out there. The thing with sharks is that they don't need to come to the surface. Turtles and whales and birds need to come to the surface to breathe. But sharks don't need to. So when sharks are migrating, they can go very, very deep underwater and migrate. They recently did a study of giant basking sharks here on the east coast of North America, and we've been helping with this study, and they've shown that these sharks go very deep underwater and then travel long distances, so you don't actually ever see them. So they haven't reported seeing any, but if we keep paying attention, I wouldn't be surprised if they start seeing some before they finish their journey.
What has been their biggest achievement yet?
Their biggest achievement? Oh my goodness, I don't know. I wouldn't want to speak too much on their behalf, but certainly, you know, making it halfway across the ocean under your own power is a big achievement. Staying friends and working together, making sure the equipment continues to work the way it's supposed to, staying on course, and continuing to write and blog and educate people about what they're experiencing. All of these things are great accomplishments to me. I'm not sure what their greatest is. You definitely save that question for them when they get back, and you make sure you ask them that question, because I'd be very curious to know what they think the greatest accomplishment is as well. They've accomplished so many amazing things right now. I'm impressed by all of it.
Thank you for letting us be part of this historical crossing, and we wish the rowers well and a safe ending to this remarkable journey.
Well, thank you. I'll make sure that they know that as well. I think they're very impressed and so pleased to know that everyone is watching and paying attention, which is really what they wanted to know. So great job on you guys. I'm so pleased that you're paying attention to this type of work. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much for meeting with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. So please let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to contact me on email there, and or give me a call, or Christine at CWF anytime. And if there's anything we can provide you, don't be shy.
Thank you. Say bye.
Okay. Guys, thanks a lot. See you now.